hard today.
All right. At least a 1-2, no problem day from CC. We're operating on about 3 hours sleep.
I'll take it.
I'm excited for all of it.
All right, perfect. Well, speaking of, let's start with some late night basketball. Is there any other kind when you do an East Coast morning show? Warriors taking on the Lakers. Golden State got the best of LA in overtime, 127-123 behind a combined 57 points from Durant and Steph. You probably already knew that if you're following CC on Twitter. It spoiled a solid night from Lonzo Ball, who finished with 15 points and 10 assists. So, CC, after all that watching last night, what does it tell you that the Warriors needed overtime to beat the lowly Lakers?
Well, I think that the Warriors, and we look at past champions, and the Warriors have been through not only a tremendous run last year, but the last several years. Now, they haven't gone through what LeBron went through with 4 finals in Miami, then coming to Cleveland with 3 straight there. No, they don't have that. But in a shorter window, in 3 years, they've played a lot of basketball games. I mean, they broke the NBA record for wins. They've won 2 out of 3 championships. Their team pretty much stayed pat from last season. So sometimes in these type of games, you see a little lethargic. You see that they might not be as motivated as some other games. But also what I see is, I mean, they're not as good. Their bench is not as good. You know, so there are some issues there. When they close out the games, they put in Iguodala as their substitute, and how they're going to close out games with Draymond and the other 3 superstars. So they're not real big. So if they don't rebound well, if they don't play defense well, because there are going to be nights that their shots aren't falling, like last night, which kept the Lakers in the game. What will they do then? Because Kevin Durant is basically the biggest player on the court for them. How good will their defense been? But I won't get over alarmed about it, because I've seen teams, especially teams that have been successful as long as Golden State have. You have lulls in the season, and you have games like this where they were still plenty good enough to be able to win that game.
I would like to sit here and say why you should be concerned. I would like to run off the list of teams that have looked like they were a lock to make a 4th straight finals, and yet didn't make a 4th straight finals. Because we know since Russell Celtics, Bird did it once, Magic did it once, LeBron's done it these 7-year run, and that's the full list. Shaq never did it, Kobe never did it, Michael never did it, Hakeem never did it. I'd like to talk about that. I'd like to talk about how November is the month the Warriors blow people off the court. In the last 3 years leading into this year,
no professional basketball team has been as good as them in the month of November.
No,
and it's not even close.
It's not even. In the last 3 Novembers before this year, they were 43-3. This November, they're 11-3, and as we discussed, they had a shot against them at the buzzer in regulation to be 10-4. I'd like to get into all of that.
I feel like something's coming. Something's about to drop, CC.
I can't, because of what they did last offseason in adding Kevin Durant and what I know about talent in the NBA. Steve Kerr is frustrated with this team. Steve Kerr, after the game, talked about how it's an effort issue. It is a attention to detail issue. It is a playing hard issue. You didn't have to watch the entire game last night. If you're up this early and with us, you probably fell asleep on it. But if you watched, there was a sequence in midway through the 3rd quarter where it's just turnover after turnover, bad pass after bad pass. Now, that was from both teams. But the Lakers are a bunch of young kids that are not a very good team.
Right.
That's when the Warriors are supposed to.
But when Golden State is not engaged, teams that have, if you've watched them, what do they do as a team? Sometimes they don't rebound, and they have a propensity to turn the ball over in bunches.
In bunches. And they didn't learn their lesson. Why did they blow the 3-1 lead to the Cavs? Well, one of the most glaring reasons was as the Cavs were coming back in Game 7 late in the 4th quarter, Steph Curry threw a totally needless, errant, behind-the-back pass to Klay Thompson that bounced out of bounds. LeBron came down the court the next time and hit a 3-pointer, which changed the game. Why am I bringing that up? That should have, if anything's going to teach you, take care of the basketball, it's that moment. But so here's why I'm frustrated, Jenna. I should be able to sit here and say the Rockets are better than the Warriors because they've played better. They've got a player playing better than anyone on the Warriors. They have a better record. I should be able to sit here and say the Spurs might be better. They're 1 loss behind them, And Kawhi Leonard hasn't set foot on the basketball court. The Celtics beat them and have a better record. The Cavs have won more loss than the Warriors.
Now
and they're second best
that's
players.
Shocking.
Right.
Based on as bad as Cleveland played.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, too, it's when you get your wins and when you got your losses. Cleveland struggled early. Boston struggled early. Boston went on a big streak. Now there's starting to be some correction there. Cleveland started horrendous. Now, I would say Golden State, they started the way they normally start. They dropped a couple in their first 10, 12 games. But this is not what we were expecting in the month of November.
And so Jenna, but I can't say any of it because they added Kevin Durant. And when you had a 73-win team and you add the second-best player in the world, all logic says you're going to be fine, which is why it's so frustrating talking about this team. They're the only team in the league that we discuss that it feels like there is almost there is no critique that resonates during the regular season because all basketball history tells us when you have that much talent, you're going to be fine.
To your point, something like turnovers, right? The Suns are the only team with more turnovers right now than the Golden State Warriors. But I don't want to be a non-alarmist because that's not what my role is on the show. But if I may be a non-alarmist for just a second. This is a team that's been to the finals the last 3 years, right? They've won 2 out of the last 3 finals. They understand how to get it done. They understand where they need to be January, February, March, April. They know all of that. Is it okay for them to take a couple nights off in November? Can we not... Can the Warriors not either be the team that's going to win it all or the team that's terrible? Can they be a pretty good team in the West that just can keep pace with Houston and with some of these other teams and win, but not have to blow out other teams, understand who their competition is? Well,
this is the thing. That would be normal for another team. If that had been LeBron in Miami, we might have accepted it. That's LeBron in Cleveland. We've accepted that. So what we're trying to give Golden State now is what we granted Cleveland last year. They're just sleepwalking through the season. They don't need to be the #1 seed. They smashed Boston in the playoffs. So we would like to be able to do that, but the climate in the West is totally different. If you end up being the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th seed, that's not where you want to be. Home court advantage in basketball is very important, and the seeding in the West is very important. So we can't use that criteria in trying to dissect where they are right now. And they've been so good in the month of November. And they're healthy. Now, if they weren't healthy, we'd have some excuses, but they have a standard. So now they're like New England. They're subject to the standard that they set.
And the 2 years before they got Kevin Durant, they averaged 70 wins. Last year, despite losing Durant for over a month, they had 67 wins. Them getting the 1 seed has not been in question for the lion's share of the last 3 seasons. There was a moment last year where it looked like the Spurs might come up and grab them. That obviously didn't happen. What is the reality is, Jenna, they shouldn't have to give full effort and still get these wins. They shouldn't have to execute. When you have 4 of the 12 best players in the league, think about that.
Yes.
You have 12 players is a starting lineup, right? So if we were to pick the Olympic team, they would have a third of the guys on the Olympic team play for what my Olympic team would be at least, play for the Golden State Warriors. So I'm allowed to, we can sit here and say the fact that they're pacing now through a quarter of the season for 59 wins and potentially the 3 seed in the West, it should be alarming. But I can't raise the alarm because of what they did with Kevin Durant an offseason ago, which is why we have a new commercial running where Cece's like, I love the super teams. It's why I hate what they did. Because it changes the math on how we talk about, to me, the greatest sport in the world. And it's frustrating to me that last night, they lost the night before, or the game before. They almost lost to the Lakers, who have been awful. And it's like, oh, but they're the Warriors. They'll be fine.
They're the Warriors. They'll be fine. Coming up, how much? Let's talk some football. How much does Dak Prescott have to prove tonight